Hi. Good afternoon,
Hello.
Jeanette.
Good afternoon, Miss Celine.
So I think we're live now for our DigiSeminar today. So while waiting for viewers, kamusta ka? Kamusta dyan
Ma-
sa Oslo?
yeah, maayos naman. Malamig. Akala natin ay mainit na ang panahon pero bigla namang lumamig.
Yeah. Actually, dito rin eh. Dito ko sa Tromso. So, of course, it's cold here. Pero, the other day, maaraw na. So, we are experiencing longer days na ngayon. So, 8 o'clock, may araw pa kami dito. So, and then, what are your plans for Easter?
Plus namin for Easter, andito yung bibisita yung kapatid ng husband ko from Denmark. So, dito lang kami sa Oslo
Wow, at
for
least relax
spontaneous
lang.
plan. Relax.
That's nice. Hirap pa rin maglalabas ba ngayon, pero buti dito sa Norway we're okay na in terms of like no more mask, yung restrictions natin is okay, right?
Yes, at saka maganda lang is naka-vaccine tayo. Although nagkakasakit man tayo pero hindi ganun ka-worse. Pero it's
Mm.
nice na maayos naman yung ano natin.
That's nice.
Mm.
So kamusta naman yung mga kids mo? I can hear them happily at the background.
Sana hindi sila mag-iingay kung mag-ano na talaga tayo, mag-live. Sinabihan ko na sila. Sana maayos lang ang lahat.
Yes. Okay, so let's check how many are our viewers. Yan. Okay. So, di ba nagsuschool ka? Ano nga yung activities mo? Like, like masters ka ba? Or you said you're with a civil
A
society? Mm.
community development and social innovation.
Wow, so what's that about?
It's related with also sa mga different organization. Nag-visit na
Mm.
kami ng mga different organization. May mga meetings na kami with like Mission Shirke,
Mm.
Crooks, at marami pang ibang organization actually. Pero napakagandang topic to ngayong hapon na to about Hope for Justice.
Mm.
Nag-add talaga siya sa akin ng additional knowledge about organization.
Mm.
Nakakatulong talaga siya sa akin as a student.
So, yung yung mga ginagawa mo for like you as a student, what is like the objectives of what you're learning or the information that you are gathering? What is your goals?
Our goals is to see what is really happening sa society natin, yung differences. Like
Mm.
we are helping the community to be a better society. Like for example, we do visit a organization that focus about the people have problems on drug addiction,
Mm.
like the old people that needs attention, that needs
Mhm.
something to you need to listen to them, know their know their what's and ups about life. So
Mhm.
that's our main goal.
Mhm.
Like we are more on community service. Yeah.
Well, that's nice. A lot of people now would need that, especially coming from a pandemic. We have these things to talk about. All right. So now I think it's time for us to start with our topic for our DG seminar. Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to DigiSeminar of De Filipinske Help Samfund i Norge, FHS in collaboration with Hope for Justice. I'm Zeline, a volunteer and the APC of the FHS Team NIN, and together with me is also a volunteer in FHS, Jeanette. For everyone's information, FHS is an NGO which provides the information drive and awareness to benefit and help the migrant groups in Norway, gathering necessary information they need. Today, we are going to have a very special visitor who will join us shortly. They are representatives for Hope for Justice Norge, and they will be presenting the crucial information regarding human trafficking. So, information may or may not apply to your situation. Discretion is necessary. So, under no circumstances that our organization will be held responsible nor liable in any way for any claims or liabilities resulting or arising directly or indirectly from your use of the information we are about to represent. So, get your pen and paper ready so you can jot down all the information that you might need. We, together with the Hope for Justice, will answer your inquiry and questions at the end of the presentation. So, if you have any questions, you just write it in the comment section and we will open the floor.
Thank you, Celine, for the very warm welcome and introduction. Hello to all our viewers and welcome to our live event on human trafficking awareness. The aim of this DigiSeminar is to get to know some of the most important information to become aware of the current situation and how to prevent the human trafficking. Kindly let us know which city or country you came from. Just leave a comment down below and let's make the comment section interactive. I think there's a lot of people right now waiting for this event because they think that this topic is relevant. Joining us today are two representatives from Hope for Justice, and they will walk through us more about our topic today. Please welcome from Hope for Justice, Norge. Let us give the floor to Slobodan and Margaret to introduce their organization and tell us more about their services.
Hello, hello, good afternoon, evening to everyone, morning maybe to some.
How are
Um,
you? Oh,
I'm
Slobodan.
fine. How are you guys doing? Thank you for inviting us and giving us opportunity to speak to you today.
Well, that's good. We are happy that you are with us as well. And we are also glad to hear that you are doing good. So maybe you could share or introduce quickly about yourself and what you represent or do for the hope of justice.
Yes, my name is Slobodan and I'm the community engagement specialist in Hope for Justice Norway. That will say that me and my colleague Margaret, who can introduce herself shortly before we start, are working actually in the field, doing the outreach and meeting both the regular people and the potential victims in the streets of Oslo and across Norway, of course, through the social media and emails and phones. Yeah, and of course, me myself, I'm also immigrant to Norway, so being one of many, you also get to experience certain stuff through your own private situations. So it's an interesting work and great opportunity to help and assist people across Norway who end up in a bad situations. Margaret, you
Well,
want to say a word or
mhm.
two?
Yeah, hi. I'm
Hi,
um,
Margaret.
I'm Margaret. Yeah, thank you for letting us come and speak some word about Hope for Justice. Me and Slobodan, we work in a team and also in where we are meeting people who might be vulnerable to exploitation. So
Mhm.
uh, Slobodan is going to talk more about the organization and the type of work we do, and then we will be answering a question afterwards. But we were very happy to be here speaking today for the audience.
Yes, we are very privileged. So thank you for giving us a quick info about yourself. And indeed, you are part of our modern heroes. So without further ado, we would like to give you the time for us to have more information about the organization.
Yes. Should we share the presentation? Yes. As you already know, our names and the information of the organization, the phone number and the email where you can contact us in the future. I'm gonna come back to that. Before I start speaking and start telling a bit more, we just have like a short video that tells a bit more about Hope for Justice International. So we can go on the next slide and you can play the video. Yes, that was a video with no sound. It's fine if you cannot resolve it. Yeah, it is fine. Hope for Justice is the whole goal and aim and vision of our organization is to live in a world free from slavery. And we exist to bring an end to modern slavery by preventing exploitation, rescuing victims, restoring lives, and reforming society. So in the video previous, you could see the images of those different actions that we had in different parts of the world. And you can go on the next slide. Here you can see that we are the international organization. We are originally started as a British charity, 2008. But over the years we have grown and we are over 30 different locations across 5 continents. We are in the US, UK, Norway, Ethiopia, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Cambodia, and Australia. We are growing and we are trying to assist as many people as we can. For us in Norway, it is very important to point out that we started in Norway in 2015, originally in Stavanger office. We also have office in Bergen and we have office in Oslo. Me and Margaret work here in Oslo, but even though we have offices, 3 specific offices in Norway, we are assisting and helping anyone across Norway. So feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. Regarding our work, those are the main 4 focus for us: prevent, rescue, restore, and reform. Those are the 4 main pillars that we are working with across the organization, regardless which country it is. Next slide, please. Preventing exploitation, we empower people to protect themselves and their families from traffickers. This kind of work, of course, we do in Norway, but the bigger impact of prevention is also in the countries like Ethiopia and Cambodia, those places where we have our offices. That kind of impact is even bigger, where we are working with local societies and explaining in greater detail all the dangers you could face with the migration and looking for jobs both in the country and abroad. We can go to next slide. Rescuing victims. Unfortunately, there is a lot of people across the world that need our help. Rescuing victims is one of the most important parts of our work. Our investigators work closely with the police to identify victims of modern slavery, build bridges of trust, and remove them from exploitation. Originally, this was the main work for Hope for Justice in UK. They would be assisting police during the police raids and during the police investigations, since it was very important to have an organization that is not part of the police or doesn't wear a uniform and it's not part of the state, so that the potential victims and those people that need rescuing are more comfortable to speak with us. Of course, many of our staff speak different languages, and the translators are provided in order to feel them more comfortable and safe to share a bit more information about their situation. Next slide, please. Restoring lives. We provide victim-centered support to help survivors in their recovery. We run several lighthouses, which are aftercare, residential, and educational facilities. And we run also outreach and reintegration programs. Of course, this part of restoring the lives is different in Norway, it's different in UK, US, or Ethiopia. Lighthouses are more common in Ethiopia and Cambodia, where there are a bigger number of people we are assisting, and we are trying to provide them possibility to restore their life and try to return to the normal life and the families they come from. Next slide, please. Reforming society. We train frontline professionals to spot the signs of modern slavery and to respond. These sessions today is in a way part of that, to spread the news about the modern slavery, the human trafficking, and the situation people are facing across the world. And specifically in the context of Norway, the country that has a high level of protective laws and regulations. Sometimes people forget that it's still possible to be exploited, and it's still possible to be a victim of modern slavery, even in Norway, and that we need to be aware of the potential situations, and that we should assist and inform others of those potential dangers in order to prevent any potential harm. Next slide, please. Hope for Justice also has a sister organization called Slave Free Alliance, and they are working more closely with the businesses, and they are helping businesses protect their operations and supply chains and encourage businesses to improve their practices. So they are working specifically with especially the bigger companies in the world, and try to prevent any slavery, prevent any potential exploitation. Next slide, please. Human trafficking. Human trafficking definition is, as you can see, it's quite a lot of big words and quite a lot of text. But the main points to remember is that by the means of threat or use of force, someone is trying to exploit someone else for their own benefit. That is the crucial fact, that you lose your freedom, you lose your freedom of choice. And for many other people, it is crucial to have a possibility to leave the situation you don't like, and to decide yourself if you want to continue working and living in one place or not. So So we can go to the next slide that tells a bit more directly about the situation. And the issue of exploitation and human trafficking in the world is quite well known. It is the part of the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and target for all the member states, including Norway, is to meet by 2030 to eradicate forced labor, modern slavery, and human trafficking, and secure the prohibition and elimination of the worst forms. And those, of course, are child labor, including recruitment and use of child soldiers, and by 2025 end child labor in all its forms. Of course, gender equality, one of the Sustainable Development goals, is also to eliminate all forms of violence against all women and girls in public and private spheres, including trafficking and sexual exploitation and other types of exploitation in all its forms. Next slide, please. Human trafficking is, of course, a type of a modern slavery. When we say modern slavery, we usually mean on the severe exploitation cases, where the types of human trafficking, we have the forced labor, forced marriage, domestic servitude, sexual exploitation, organ harvesting. It is those different types of human trafficking that we will be talking a bit further and more about. Next slide, please. In regards to human trafficking, for us who work with this topic, these are the three questions that are always asked, even by the police and the lawyers and the state, because those are the main three pillars of the definition of the human trafficking. And it is something that we always have to show the evidence and prove. We have to prove the act. We have to prove the what is done, what is done, recruiting, selecting, transporting, transferring, harboring of a person, how it is done, through force, fraud, or coercion. The force is the crucial part. And why is it done? For forced labor, domestic servitude, sexual exploitation, forced marriage, or removal of organs. For the extreme cases of modern slavery, it is only important to know how it is done and why it is done. Next slide, please. In this slide, you can because we are using this example because a lot of people mix two different words of trafficking and smuggling. Of course, they are all created for different purposes, and it is important to understand that trafficking, it can be legal, illegal, it doesn't need border crossing. It can be with the legal or illegal documents. It is with the restricted movement, and it is with the control. And the commodity or the value of trafficking is in the individual, in that person that is being trafficked. And it is a crime usually against that individual. And it is usually repeated exploitation. When we are talking about smuggling, it is illegal border crossing with the illegal documents, either false or stolen. And the commodity it is a service, it is a movement. And it is usually crime against the state. And it is voluntary. Of course, in many situations, migrants could be paying a smuggler to be smuggled from their home country to Europe, for example, but across the road or upon arrival in Europe, they can become victims of trafficking and victims of modern slavery. So it can be sometimes mixed, but the whole aim is the profitable business involving human beings. And criminal networks on both sides are trying to exploit it and earn more money for themselves. Next slide, please. Types of exploitation. Sexual exploitation is one of the very well-known types of exploitation, especially when we are talking about human trafficking and modern slavery. It is vulnerable people, overwhelmingly women and girls, that are tricked and forced into sex trade. And it's usually with the promise of a good work in hospitality, modeling, or boyfriend is responsible in those cases that we have seen through our work. Second type is forced labor, and that is the one that we as organizations are working a lot in Norway due to the high demand of labor in Norway, and we are meeting people who are being exploited in different situations. Forced labor means that when there is a person that has no choice or control over their work, and all the money they earn is taken by someone else, who often controls where they live and even who speak for them. Domestic servitude, it's a less common type of modern slavery, but it happens, and it's maybe a bit harder to discover. But over the years, we had cases of people who are forced to cook, clean, or do the child care for little or no pay, often living in the home with the employer and not allowed to live their own life. And I would say, especially for your organization, any of those is a potential form of exploitation, and it is good to be aware of these different situations. We can go on the next slide. Criminal exploitation. It is usually explained with victims that are forced to grow or transport drugs, made to shoplift or pickpocket, forced to beg in the streets, or used for fraud. The threat of being reported becomes another method of control. In case of Norway, we have seen that with the minors, the children under 18 who are used for sale of drugs. Regarding the forced marriage, it is we think that there is more than 15 million people that have been forced into marriage without the consent, and majority of them are women and girls, and usually often to an older man in another region or a country. Regarding Norway has certain laws in place that are trying to prevent situations like that, especially in specific regions and countries where if you are bringing your spouse from another part of the world, they require that they are a certain age, and in some cases they even require to take a blood test to prove that you are not family, and that to give opportunity to find out if it's a forced marriage. Organ harvesting, it is tricking or forcing a victim into having organs removed to be sold on the black market. Unfortunately, this is happening, even though we are not aware of it. But it is happening, especially in the countries through our work that we know, countries like Libya, where people are selling their organs in order to collect enough money to pay for a ticket to Europe. So these 6 different types of exploitation are part of human trafficking and modern slavery, and we should all be aware of them. Next slide, please. Regarding the modern slavery, we believe that 1 in 4 victims of modern slavery globally are children. And it's also important to point out again that human trafficking does not require international travel. So you can still be trafficked from Stavanger to Oslo, for example, or even in the same street. So it is important to know that human trafficking can happen wherever. Next slide, please. And modern slavery is a big business for criminal networks, as mentioned earlier. It is estimated that they generate over 150 billion in profits years globally. I believe they are the 3rd highest income generator in the world. And through our surveys, 77% of business leaders are stating that they expect to find modern slavery in their operations or supply chains. So that also shows how it is expected, understood, and in some cases just seen as a part of everyday life, and just shows that we all need to work more in order to increase the prevention and spread the information. Next slide, please. Who are the victims? Who are the potential victims? Who are those people that we meet in our work, in our daily work? Those are the vulnerable people of all ethnicities. Anyone from any walk of life can be targeted and can end up as a victim of modern slavery, because we all face it at one time of our life. We all face some kind of vulnerability that potentially makes us gives us higher chance to be exploited. Due to the world spread of poverty, wars, climate change, cheap and quick transport via airplanes and cargo ships, it's almost unlimited number of people who could be exploited. And during our work in Norway, we have met people who come from different parts of the world that you never expect that they would end up in Norway. So that just shows how easy it is to transport people from one part of the world to the other. Next slide, please. Regarding the control methods, we often get a question: why did those people stay? Why did they allow to be controlled? Why didn't they leave? Why didn't they escape? And in many cases, the relationship between those experiencing modern slavery and the person or the group controlling them is a complex. It is rare for the control to be based only on physical confinement, like locked doors. It also happens that some of the victims that we meet have a need for narcotics or alcohol, and they are highly dependent on those people who are providing them with that. Brainwashing and isolation is one of them. Debt bondage. A lot of people are willing to sign up to a debt or get a debt in order to reach Europe, for example. Manipulation is one of the one of the methods, and of course, control of your passport, ID, and other documents. In many cases, especially as an immigrant, you are always in danger when you don't have your ID papers with you. The biggest issue that we also face in our daily work is that many people that we meet and talk with, they do not see themselves as being a victim of modern slavery. They describe feelings of hopeless and having no options, or even feeling a sense of obligation towards those who are trafficking them. They do not understand their situation as being one that they could run away from and escape from. So it can take quite a while before a victim of modern slavery actually acknowledges that they have been exploited and that they need to do something about it. Next slide, please. Regarding the slavery and technology, we all live in 21st century. We all use the same apps and online resources, and the criminal networks, they are also using them. Technology is offering countless opportunities for the criminal networks to come in contact with any potential victim. Social media have become a tool that provide opportunity to reach many at the same time without need to meet in person. This makes recruitment effective and simple. Through our work, we have seen and spoken to many people who only have WhatsApp and Viber messages. They actually never met those people who promised them certain stuff. Next slide, please. Reasons for vulnerabilities. For example, the Norwegians we would meet, there would be always a questions: why did they allow themselves to end up in that situations? If we are talking about immigrants, but the reasons are many. Poverty is one of the big reasons. People have a lack of job opportunities in their home countries. They are in urgent need of income for the family. And in some extreme cases that we also notice in like countries like Ethiopia, Cambodia, and others where we have our offices, is that parents sell or send their children to bigger cities to work. So underage children are sent to other parts of the country to work and provide income for the family. Lack of education, less opportunities at the job market, analphabet. From time to time, we would meet people who cannot read or write. And access to information, of course, is crucial, and especially if you are new in some country and do not speak the language, you're unaware of your rights. War is definitely one of those that creates refugee flows, and refugees are usually the people with high vulnerability, and they are fighting for survival. So in many cases, they would say yes to certain offers that no one else would, like working for less money or no money, or working just for a place to live. Corruption, criminal networks operate easier since they can buy protection and immunity. This happens in some parts of the world, so people are victims of modern slavery. They do not trust to the authorities, and that's what we also see in our work. People from other parts of the world in Norway, they do not trust the police in Norway, even though there is no reason. There is no such a level of corruption like maybe at home, but still the mistrust towards the authorities is high, and because of that, they are not willing to ask for help. Next slide, please. Demand for certain service product is crucial, that we still have certain types of exploitation in the world. Exploitation through sale of sex and pornography is one of the most lucrative businesses in the world due to the popular demand. Regarding the cheap stuff that we are buying in the West, it's a good business to produce goods and services at lowest price as possible and later sell at the highest market price. Demand for cheap clothes and goods is high, but the willingness of the buyers to pay is relatively low in terms of production costs. So that makes producers dependent on the cheap workforce in order to be able to provide cheap products. And we see that in everyday life and work here in Norway. We all have seen and noticed that many of the stuff that we buy comes from abroad. A lot of services and workers in Norway are also from abroad, imported specifically for their skills. So it is a real challenge that we are facing, and that's why we think that it's important that people are aware of those different signs, as we call them, to spot the signs of modern slavery. You can go on the next slide. And we usually ask people, can you spot the signs of modern slavery? Next slide. For example one for us is, has the worker been dropped off as a part of a larger group? Especially in the places like a construction places, especially across here in Oslo, there is quite often that there is a bigger groups imported from the same country, and they usually work and sleep and live at the same places. And often a victim of human trafficking or modern slavery will be transported to work each day to ensure control of the movement and limit the victim's time away from the trafficker and potential for escape. We have seen this also with our colleagues in the UK, where we had astonishing rescues of people being exploited like this for 10-15 years. Next slide, please. Someone else talks for the worker. Many victims, of course, do not speak English, whether to the language barrier, learning difficulties, or other reasons. Traffickers commonly pretend to be translating or being a friend or speaking on behalf of them. And We have seen that in the cases, for example, in Norway, the seasonal workers in agriculture, those picking up strawberries or any other agricultural products in Norway. Many farms in Norway import specifically seasonal workers, for example, from Vietnam. So many of them do not speak any English or Norwegian. They are recruited through specific recruitment agency, and there is always one person speaking for the whole group. And we have heard the examples from the police where police was doing their own outreach work and went to the fields and spoke with the groups of Vietnamese and explain the situation in Norway, what are the rules and regulations, and what is the usual salary per hour. And after their statement that salary is, for example, 150 kronas per hour, the whole group just turned towards that one spokesman in anger, meaning that they were probably paid much, much less than what is expected and normal in Norway. Next slide, please. Have you seen the lights on at night at the business premises? We all can notice this. Maybe in some especially construction places, there are some rooms that are used for breaks or containers, and sometimes you can notice that there are lights, and you can notice that even now during the COVID time, it was due to COVID restrictions and demands for having your own private place of living, the Norwegian authorities have discovered many places where people were actually sleeping in those same break rooms, of that they were using during the day. Next slide, please. Unexplained injuries or looking unkempt, anxious. Traffickers prefer not to let their victims access medical or dental care, as this can open opportunities for them to get the help or to escape. Lack of money and resources means victims' clothing and appearance is often unkempt, and they will not have the proper safety equipment even for the dangerous jobs. And we have seen that through the examples of other organizations also here in Norway, working especially at the construction places, that there have been some concerns about the health and safety at the construction. Next slide, please. In general, Spot the Signs is one of the trainings that we provide. Of course, it's in much longer form, but as you can see here, these are the usual and the typical Spot the Signs. As already mentioned, people are dropped off at work at odd times. People avoid the eye contact. There is a lack of belongings, look injured, malnourished, avoid talking to strangers. Those are the classical and typical signs that we have seen through our work across the world. Next slide, please. These sentences here that you can see on the screen, they are part of our statements that we have in the brochures, in our brochures that are in many languages. We are just giving examples of what does it mean to be affected by modern slavery. I don't feel like I'm in control of my own life. I'm not free to decide where I live or work. If I do as they say, they won't hurt me. If I speak to anyone about this, I'll get arrested or deported. They say that I have to pay off my debt to them, that they threaten me and my family. They always have somebody watching me. Those are the usual statements. And if you ever hear someone saying one of them, or if you feel that someone needs to hear or read them, feel free to contact us and we can provide you with brochures, or you can get more information on our webpage, because it may make some of them to start thinking a bit more about their situation. Next slide, please. It is important for all of us to know our rights, to be informed, to ask, check, and especially for all of us who are immigrants to Norway or planning to move to Norway, already live here, it's important to keep in mind that the rules and regulations are different than in the home country, and that you have much bigger rights maybe here in Norway that you are not aware of. So you should definitely advise anyone that you know that is in certain difficulties, in certain gray zones, in facing certain issues, that they should ask. They should not be afraid to ask. Contact, not just us, but contact the police in the cases of emergency, but also contact the tax office or the UDI or other organizations just to ask for the information, because it's important to use our voice. And yeah, this was a quick run of the presentation. It is just the main points and the main information. You can go next slide. Again, our contact information, so feel free to contact us. This is email specifically for us in Norway, and the phone number is of course in Norwegian format. And hopeforjustice.org is our international webpage. There is more information there about the modern slavery and the resources on that, so feel free to check it. And I think we can stop the presentation now and open the floor for questions.
Okay. So there we have it. Thank you, Slobodan, for that informative information about the differentiation of how we can spot human trafficking or victims. So I think at this point we will open the floor for questions that our viewers have. Jeanette, do we have any questions from our viewers? Jeanette, I think you're still on mute.
Yes. I'm sorry, we have some questions here. Thank you for that, Miss
Mm-hmm.
Celine.
Mm-hmm.
Question here for number one. What are the indication or how to spot a modern slavery in the supply chain? And number two, what is your advice to people out there that who are in a desperation state to find a job, especially here in Norway? That is one and two question.
Yes. How to spot modern slavery in the supply chains? That is the hardest. That is really $1 million question, you can say. And that is something that we are working hard on to inform the businesses. Norway is introducing a new law that is going to be effective from 1st of July, where all the businesses in Norway are, especially the middle size and the big size, they need to have a certain system in place to prevent any potential modern slavery and slavery in their supply chains. So they will be obliged to have a specific rules and regulations inside of the company, and to be more effective especially in the context of renting other companies, smaller companies, to do the work for them, or importing certain goods from abroad, that they really actually have to, in some cases, even do physical inspections of their suppliers in order to prove that everything is according to the rules and regulations. So every year there is more and more rules and regulations that are trying to create those how indicators and train everyone on those, how to spot the signs. So in that regards, Norway has upgraded their system, and we are expecting that the businesses, especially in Norway, are going to be much better on that regarding the supply chain. But the second question, advice on the people who are in desperation state to find a job, especially here in Norway. Yeah, it's a difficult. There is no right advice, but regardless of how desperate you are for the work, there are certain laws and expectations in Norway. You need to have your contract. Everything needs to be in a written form. That is something maybe that, especially for us immigrants, is hard to accept, that everything needs to be in a written form.
Mm-mm.
Without paper and without having it in a written form, you cannot prove anything. So having your contract offer, having your written on that paper what is your salary, that is very important, because Norway also has a new laws against the stealing of your salary, because there has been many cases where the salary has been stolen or never
Mm.
given out. So they have a new law in place that is actually can give a serious trouble to the companies and individuals who deny salary, try to steal a salary from employees, for example.
Mm.
So demanding everything written in paper, I think, is the best, even though you are desperate for work, of course. And but knowing your rights and demanding them in written form, I think it's the crucial point, I would say, because we meet through our work many people who had agreement through SMS or through shake of the hands, and they worked for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and then when they asked for the salary, they were like, "Yeah, but no, which salary? I just asked you to help me,
Mm.
and you agreed to help." So it's, yeah, written form is it's very important to have that.
I see. Well, that's a great response to have more pointers to know if you are being exploited. Next question would be, who are the usual exploiters? You mentioned part of the supply chain or companies, but other than them, would there be other specific um, specific names for those that exploit other than companies? Like I believe you mentioned in the slide that some are those who are like a family and a boyfriends. Would there be more other than those?
Yeah, you have a family members that, the boyfriend case, and you have our recruitment agencies are potentially, in some cases, have shown to have examples of where people were exploited and where they were brought to Norway for specific reason, to work for less money. You had
Mm,
Norwegian companies using companies from abroad to import workers. So situations
mm,
where workers, where they worked in Norway, but they received a salary like they would get at home.
mm,
And you have, for example, car washing places, for example, where people were imported, or the shops or the restaurants where people were imported as a family member because of the
mm,
same nationality, but they're not family member. They just use
mm,
that as a reasoning to say, yeah, you should give them visa. They can come for a visit. They're
mm,
gonna stay at my house, but they actually working in my restaurant, and you know
mm,
working for free because I helped them reach Europe. So then they should not complain. They should just shut up and work, and then after a while we'll see what happens. So yeah, usual examples that we see is a construction, cleaning, uh, restaurants, and yeah, those are the typical places where we the people that we would meet, for example. Of course, it's not. Yeah, some names I guess we should not be specifically mentioning, but also the food
mm,
delivery companies that we are in our. We also do the outreach work, so we are in specific spots around Oslo, and we also visit the Red Cross night shelter once a week. And for example, there specifically, there is a quite big number, I would say, of the people who actually work in a food delivery. They are delivery with specific companies. They are coming to a nice shelter to sleep as a homeless person with the full uniform of the delivery company, where we all order food to be delivered at home.
mm,
So that is one situation also, that it's around in front of our nose, but regular people do not see or do not react on.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. It's something enlightening because we don't know that these simple things, or actually not simple things, are actually already violating the law, or like the right of a human person who is just making a living. So, next question would be, since most of the victims are experiencing poverty, um, does hope of justice become a bridge to provide livelihood, or like in connection with those who have like working for deliveries, or who are already here in Norway or work for work, and we found out that they either they don't have a salary, or their salary is really low. Do hope of justice help correct that situation, or provide livelihood at least?
Hmm. Well, hope for justice is as I was speaking in the presentation, the whole aim and the work is for those extreme cases of exploitation, of course, and then there is a different path of, of, of assistance in those cases. But if we are talking about the livelihood or the poverty or the people experiencing not salary, we are
Mm-hmm.
providing the assistance with the lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So after initial conversation with the translator or not, depending if we can communicate, and depending on the case, we can provide conversation with the lawyer and to find out more what is the reality. And if there is a extreme case, or if there is something that needs to be reported, then we are assisting, of course, with the lawyer to report to the police, because the police
Mm-hmm.
is the only authority in Norway that can, take the case further. But we all, both us in organization, but also you and the rest of the viewers, we all have responsibility to identify potential victim of modern slavery. Anyone can do it. You don't need to be you don't need to work in the organization, or anyone can do that, and anyone can go to science. For us as the Hope for Justice, we are trying to assist with the lawyer, and we are trying to assist with all the other administration and paperwork you might need in that context. But there are other organizations that we are cooperating with, especially in those extreme cases where the safe house is needed, where shelter is needed, and those who actually are seen as a potential victims, they have a right for a reflection period, as it is called, where you are able to get a 6-month visa and assistance from now,
Mm-hmm.
while the UDI and the court is looking at your case and trying to see if there is a potential to take it up as a case of modern slavery or human trafficking. I don't know, Margrethe, if you want to add something more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you also have direct contact with the human trafficking department in NAV. So if we have any victims of human trafficking or modern slavery that are recognized as such, they can provide also the while they are in their reflection period, they can get a work training in another job and then potentially be employed there after this time.
It's all very much individual, depending on your
Mm-hmm.
country of origin and
Mm-hmm.
depending also of your situation. So there are different rights and regulations depending really on your background. But the help is around, and you just need to ask. That is the problem. And sometimes even if you ask, and if you meet the wrong person and they say I don't know, then you just give up and don't go further. So it's important to call different people or the organizations and inform yourself depending on the situation. But regarding looking for a job, and nav office is the best office for that.
Well, that's good to hear that the hope of justice is doing something as a solution as well to help these people. So I think we have the next question would be ask Jeanette. What's the next question?
I will take the question from the viewers. There is one last question here. Do you think that the victimization of men and boy is considered invisible? Do they normally seek support or help?
Mm, that's a good question, because in many cases it is actually the women who are being identified as the victims of modern slavery. But I feel like it is a little bit invisible for men and boys, even though during our outreach we meet a lot of men who have been exploited, who have been part of the so-called gray zones, where they haven't been trafficked, but it is on the borderline of that they got some money for their work but didn't. So there is a lot of stuff that is not spoken about, and it's seen as a normal. You just need to, bite your tongue and continue walking. It's fine. So definitely. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Margrethe.
Yeah, I would
I
also say that it's harder for men to kind they often the men that we meet that are in such exploited work situation, they rather
mm-hmm.
because yeah, they rather want to say that they don't want to victimize themselves and say that they're a victim of anything. They would say that
Mm-hmm.
they're just in a bad situation, and they also have even more so the pressure of providing for the family, so
Mm-hmm.
they feel like, okay, I didn't get my pay, I just have to like continue hoping for a better luck with the next job, and that I get paid. Just like Slobodan said, bite your tongue and keep on,
Mm-hmm.
not seeking help maybe.
Well, yes, that's actually like one of our comments here. They said that it's because of gender stereotypes and concepts around masculinity that men are not vulnerable, and that sometimes it may prevent men from reporting violence done against them. So yeah, that's a real practical and real situation. So actually we have receiving still a lot of questions about this topic. I would just like to check with you guys if you are still up for some questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. So here the next one is what are the indications or how to spot a modern slavery in supply chain in general. So I am you late earlier on you mentioned that it's usually when they get paid low, but how do we spot them like right away? Even of course we don't know how much they really get paid or if they're legal or not legal, but would there be like a more prominent gesture or like clue that they are under
Well,
this or they're being victimized? Mm.
like any, I mean, for us living in Norway, you are aware of
Mm.
the prices of certain stuff, and you
Mm.
are to use example of nail salons. You are aware how much does it cost to go to a Norwegian place, and
Yeah.
then
Mm.
how much it costs to do your nails, as you can
Yeah.
do now in the shopping centers in Oslo. The price difference is quite big. Why? If it's the same work, why is the
Mm.
price different?
Yes.
You know
Yeah.
what?
It's because they're paying for cheaper labor.
Exactly. As you and
Mm.
if you look at the staff and the
Mm.
ethnicity at the background,
Mm.
many of them will probably just be speaking English because
Mm.
they are actually from other parts of Europe and world. So
Mm.
they are willing to work for less.
Yeah.
It's the same like again, not to use the names, but you have the hair salons that are
Mm.
popping around in Norway, the cheap ones, Express. Also, majority of the people working there are foreigners
Mm.
working for less. So in the supply chains or the companies, that would be the like the greatest example on how to spot the signs for
Mhm.
exploitation. Of
Mhm.
course, the worst cases of the exploitation, it's usually with the, you know, for example, a lot of construction and the buildings in Norway are made already in Poland and Lithuania, and then they are just,
Mhm.
imported in Norway. Are they created in the same level of, laws and regulations like you have in Norway?
Mhm.
That is the, for the company in Norway to double check if they are following all the rules and regulations. And with this new
Mhm.
law coming in place in July, many companies will be obliged
Mhm.
to actually do that.
Mhm.
There will be someone actually checking if you are following what you say you are following. Are you checking
Mhm.
your suppliers? But for
Yeah.
us, for everyday users, it's, if it's too cheap than what you are used to, why?
Mhm.
If we ask ourselves why, usually we can see why after 5 minutes being at that place.
Yeah. Well, that's something to think about because, of course, a lot of people would actually don't think that there is a reason behind getting a more affordable service, and some people are blinded that they don't know that it's already like illegal or that the cost of the people servicing them or the sorry the labor that they're paying for is the cost of the job of the ones providing them the service. So
Mm,
I think the next question would be the next question hold on. I think if the organization receives a tip that human trafficking is going on, how fast can Hope for Justice respond, and what are the processes that needs to be undergone before you can start saving the victim? So I think this would be like earlier when you flashed your contact information. How soon can we respond to this? And do we need to provide like photos or something or a proof before we get entertained, or right at the moment when we call you go and investigate?
mm. Well, of course, it depends from case to case. But for example, we had embassies contacting us, so where their citizens in Norway have experienced difficulty and were asking
Mhm.
for help. Of course, those are the cases where the potential victims are actually asking for help.
Mm.
But even in those many cases where they're asking for help, they are doing it secretly.
Mhm.
So they are still in some sort of danger. Yeah. So regarding Hope for Justice, we are available to assist as soon as we get the contact information. For us, it's important to speak with the person directly and hear from the
Mm.
person directly what is
Mhm.
going on, and to do our own, in a way, research and follow up to see what is going on and what are the needs, and then we start doing our job, how we can assist, how other organizations can assist. And of course, if it is actually saving someone directly who is a great danger, that of course is the police who has the main responsibility. So if you see
Mm.
someone who is in a great danger, of course you need to call the police. But
Mm.
if you feel that someone needs help, just talking about the topic, because calling someone a victim or saying you are part of modern slavery or being exploited, those are
They
big
don't know.
words that doesn't mean
Mm.
anything.
Mm.
It is more to have the approach as we show the slide with our brochure, with those statements, with general statements slash
Mhm.
questions, asking,
Mhm.
can you leave your place? How do you feel?
Mm.
Do you want to, change a job? Do you want to change a place of living?
Mm.
It's more about going around
Mm.
and trying to get the person to realize themselves
Mm.
eventually that they are in difficult situation, because if they do not want help,
Do anything.
we cannot push them to do it. Yeah.
Yes.
and
Yeah, that's
depending
true.
and depending, of course, on the situation, you really, we have to adapt, because not any case is the same. In
Mm.
some cases, you just need to provide them translator, an
Mm.
opportunity to speak to a lawyer, and you already assisted them a lot. In some cases, you need to follow them like every step. I
Mhm.
mean, Margareta can add probably something on this, but in many cases, it is a lot of letter writing, a lot of contacting the NAV, the doctor, the psychiatrist, the police, the lawyer,
Mhm.
if you are in some shelter in Norway or some other organization is also assisting with something. So
Mm.
for us, the most important is to share the information and to share that there is a possibility to get the help. And for us also as organization, we are willing to work with others because there are different organizations working in Norway and they are all providing something different, even though we can all call it modern slavery or human trafficking. But there are specific organizations that are working with specific topics, for example. In case maybe
Mhm.
of Filipinos, in the case of au pair, we would also contact Caritas au pair
Mm.
if if there was something that we felt that we don't are not aware of or we feel that they could provide additional information, we would also contact them and put them in contact, for example, or Rosa or any other organization that has a more knowledge or provides something extra that person needs. So the focus on the person in need is great for us, and that's the focus of the whole work,
Mhm.
to assist straight away. So that's why it really depending on the case. We are also now building our relationship with the local police, especially the police in the areas around Oslo, and we already received some tips and stuff about the restaurants exploiting staff importing from abroad. So it is growing in that context, but it's only because of these kind of meetings and these kind of talks and gatherings and spreading the information, because we don't spot the people. We maybe go to
Mhm.
the same shop every day, but you
Mhm.
never notice that maybe it's the same person working 7 days in a week. But is
Yeah.
it allowed to work 7 days in a week in Norway? No.
No.
But
Mm.
you don't notice it because you're living your life, regular life, your problems and stuff like that. So just being aware of stuff, I think we can actually assist and help someone.
Mm. So anything you want to add about that, Margaret?
Um, yeah, I think Sobalan answered that pretty good. But I was just thinking if there's any other questions
Mm-mm.
that we want to
Yeah.
continue on.
Okay. So in line with that, are the victims of trafficking always sent back to their home country? Like
No,
no. And then are there some
who
who
want to go
who
themselves?
want to go themselves
Yeah, of
to
course.
go back
The
home?
Yeah,
Mm.
the UDI is the main agency in Norway, immigration agency, that the one that also gives permission to stay in Norway or not. As I mentioned earlier, I talked about that reflection period. So if your case is in process and if you're still
Mm.
waiting for the answer from court and the case has been
Mm.
taken further, you
Mm.
you are allowed to receive your that reflection period, 6 months
Mm.
visa. So it's just a regular working visa and
Mm.
assistance from now to take care of your living in those 6 months while you wait. And
Mm.
depending on the answer and decision there, and specific also depending on which country you come from, and if you end up in with some other job opportunities after, of course, you are allowed to stay. In some cases, people just want to return to their home country, and as being a potential victim of slavery, you have a right for assistance from IOM, the International Organization for Migration here in Norway. They are also providing, of course, together with UDI. It's UDI who approves the application, but
Mm.
IOM provides the assistance where you get some amount of money that you can receive when you return back to your home country.
Mm.
So there is a different assistances, but of course there is no guarantee in specific cases that you will get protection. I mean, Margrethe, you can probably tell about your case, which is also very rare that someone actually gets asylum on the basis
of a
of
humanitarian basis, which
Mm,
is sometimes if it's not safe to go back to their home country, it's possible
Mhm.
you're allowed to apply for asylum on different causes, and if you don't feel safe with your either family background, there's things in your past that it makes it not safe to go back home, then
Mhm.
you can apply for asylum in Norway. But like Sabalan said, it's rare,
Mhm.
because most times people do have like a family to go back to. But in any case, it's always better to ask and see what are the possibilities, and yeah, reaching out for help is the best thing.
it
That's
is because
mhm.
there are different options depending really on your situation. That's why it is important because I always say that due to the cultural baggage that we all have, sometimes it's not normal to ask so many questions or to
Mhm.
demand explanation or to demand a better translator or someone to inform you, or you're afraid to contact a lawyer or police, or it, you really need to ask the questions because you never know what is fitting for your case, because there are
Mhm.
also examples of people who didn't manage to get a proper case with the police and a court, but they still applied for asylum and they maybe were approved for the asylum
Mhm.
because of all the other stuff they have experienced or the situation back home, or you know, you never
Mhm.
know until you
Yeah.
try in a way. So, but we have cases of people who wanted to go back, and just yesterday we were on the seminar of the comms, as they call it, the official coordinating office in the police, talking about some cases where there was a sexual exploitation, where people were returned and then the case was on and they were brought back to be a witness in a case. So there is a, really depending on your case and how far has your case gone in the system, and there is a, Norway is really willing to assist and even go some steps further depending
Mhm.
on the case, really, especially if it is a big criminal network discovered by the police and there is a lot
Mhm.
of evidence. There is a lot of
Yeah, usually you can stay exceeding the 6 months if there's case going on,
Mm.
investigation, or a case in the court. then you can stay until all of that is finished, and usually takes a long time, and you do get a lot of assistance and help on the way as well.
Well, that's good to hear that that rare case is another information for us or for those who may be watching this in the future on what other options they may have. So I think this is the last question. Um, what are some of the mind blowing incidents of human trafficking or slavery that you have encountered so far? So maybe just the one example that you were also taken aback on how grave your discovery or the rescue that have happened.
I think for us, we even might have to use our examples from UK, for example,
Mm-hmm.
because in the UK, it's also important to notice that top three countries or the origin countries of the people being exploited, one of them is UK. So
Mm-hmm.
top three countries are Albania, Vietnam, and UK. That would say that majority of the people come from the UK. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
immigrants and migrants you would think to be in the top three. It's actually nationals of the same country that are being exploited and being recognized as victims of modern slavery.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most extreme case that I have heard about is also again the UK, is where people were closed in for 10, 15 years from
Mm,
Eastern Europe. Their families, they went to
mm,
UK and disappeared. Their families did not know what happened to them. They thought they died.
mm,
They never heard
mm,
about them. And then after 10,
mm,
15 years, a gentleman has managed to escape,
mm,
and we assisted further. So I think UK has more of those extreme cases where you are really like astonished. But I think
mm,
many of them are happening in Norway, but we are not aware of because it is
mm,
very well hidden. But you can expect that in many locations people are actually sleeping and living. There is a lot of construction workers in Norway who, if they are
mm,
working somewhere at the locations which are outside of the city, most likely they're sleeping in their car
mm,
or in a tent or
mm,
in you have those seasonal workers in agriculture here in Norway.
mhm,
They were sleeping in a tent, the same tent where you produce vegetables, where the vegetables
mm,
grow, while there was a
mm,
snow outside. So you can just imagine how it is to live in a place where you're basically sleeping outside.
mhm,
So yeah, so there's many different examples, but I think that those exploitation, of course, of the children are the worst, and they
yeah.
are hidden by the technology, especially now during the COVID time where everything was moved digital. And
Mhm,
regarding for the Norwegian cases, I mean, we all read in the newspapers and heard a couple of years ago is the sexual exploitation and men from Norway exploiting children. It was somewhere in Southeast Asia, just
mm,
for the screen, paying someone
mm,
else there to exploit and take photos and videos of children. So
mm.
yeah, there's a lot of different cases. I don't know, Margareta, if you want to add.
Yeah, one of the kids that I've been working with for a while, she actually came to Norway because she got
Mm,
offered a job as a babysitter, and she was taken to the house where she thought she would be babysitting, and there was just a lot of other women there, and she was
mm,
locked in the house for a really long time, being
mm,
sexually exploited against her will and drugged, and was finally able to escape by pure luck. Um, so that's a case I've been working on for a while because after experience like that, she's needed a lot of help to get back on her feet and to like just to gain back trust in other people as it's very hard for her. So yeah, there are extreme cases, and um, it's just a lot of times it's just so hidden that we don't see what's going on behind closed doors.
mm.
And after
Yeah.
discovering the trauma of the whole experience is something that follows those people for the rest of their life. That is the worst part.
Yes. Okay. So
Are there any more questions or
actually, that's the last.
yeah?
That's the last one.
Okay. No, I mean, I just wanted to say that we are grateful for this opportunity, and as I said many times during this 1 hour and a half, feel free to contact, ask, be informed, especially for us with the immigrant background. We are sometimes afraid to ask, but we need to be informed. So we should ask and explain to different people we meet during our everyday life, because sometimes one small sentence can change somebody's life just because they never heard that there was that kind of possibility.
Thank you so much, Slobodan and Margaret, for your time. It is an honor to collaborate with you in this program. Keep safe always and hope to collaborate with you again on our future project. Once again,
Definitely.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are now sending you backstage to
Thank
reiterate.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you so much again. To reiterate, we are the FHS, not the members of Hope for Justice. This program is part of the integration and voluntary activities of our organization. Our purpose is primarily aimed at Filipinos and other minority groups living in Norway and Filipinos in the Philippines. For those who missed this live program, don't worry, you can replay it on our official Facebook page at fhs.org.no and watch it on our YouTube channel, The Filipino Helping Society in Norway. Visit our website as well as www.fhsnorge.org for more updates, other information drives, and to know more about our organization. We also want to promote the Team Newbie in Norway's activities and programs. Pro Cafe, our monthly DigiSeminar, tips to newbies in Norway, and etc. We warmly welcome our new sets of volunteers. Thank you so much.
And if you are passionate to help and want to utilize your skills, competence, and talents in serving others, please be one of us and be part of our community. You can register as a member and volunteer for free through our website. There are several benefits for all FHS members and volunteers. Again, visit our website at www.fhs.norge.org. On behalf of De Philippines Gehjälpsamfund i Norge, FHS, I would like to first thank the great people who put a lot of effort in preparing for this program. The FHS Newbie in Norway team, Abby for technical, Marianne for script and project leader, and my co host Jeanette. I would also like to thank you all for watching the program and making it as productive as possible. Lastly, again, to Slobodan and Margaret of For Hope of Justice. Thank you so much for your time and giving us insights. Again, this has been Celine.
And this is Jeanette, wishing everyone a safe, calm, and cozy Thursday.
Have a nice evening.